Today we'll be working in my workbook called The Commandments and Laws of God, which covers Exodus 20, chapter 20, first to chapter 24. Looking at the table of contents, we have done all the chapters on this page. Unfortunately, there's a second page on this table of contents. But first, we started with the actual 10 commandments that we all know. Now, these were said verbally by God to the people. This is not on written tablets yet. Because he said it verbally from the Mount Sinai, and that scared the people so much. In chapter 2, we have where they tell Moses, "You speak to God, and we will listen to you." And then Moses goes up on the mountain, and he gets these laws from God about how to live your life, the various lives, their lives. And so that covers all kinds of things, how to handle Hebrew servants, what to do with case of personal injury, what happens if an animal injures a person, and the protection of property, and social responsibility. How do you handle your widows, your fatherless? And then, of course, there's laws of all other laws that deal with justice, mercy, and the Sabbath. And also, there's the law of God's concerning annual festivals. And here is the three festivals that are created by God, although they don't really have a reason to have a place to celebrate these, but they're already set up here. So then if we go to the next page, we have chapter 10, an angel will lead them. So let's look at chapter 10. An angel will lead them, Exodus 23, 20 to 33. Exodus 23:20. See, I'm sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I'll be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. And what kind of angel is this? We'll explore that on the next page, but first let's ask questions to the scriptures we've just read. The angel that God is sending will do two things. What are they? Will guard you and bring you to the place I've prepared. The people are to do three things regarding this angel. What are they? Pay attention to him, listen to what he says, and don't rebel against him. What does God say about this angel and his relationship to God? My name is in him. What do you think it means by my name is in him? I'm thinking that this is a very important angel. Either he is a very important angel is basically what I would have to say. What will this angel not forgive? He will not forgive any of your rebellion. If the people follow the angel and follow God's law, then what will happen? And God will be an enemy to their enemies and oppose those who oppose them. So now let's detail what kind of angel this is. There are many who believe that this is more than just a normal angel due to two statements God makes. Exodus 23:21b. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. First, about forgiveness. Who alone can forgive? Mark 2, 6, 7, 10. Now, some teachers of the law were sitting there thinking to themselves, why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Then Jesus' response, but I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So who alone can forgive? Only God. God and the Son can forgive. So if this angel has the ability to forgive but will not, he can only be directly related to God. How about my name is in him? Does this tell us anything? By itself, it does not, because Jesus, Michael, Gabriel all have God's name in them, Jehovah Elohim. So we will have to look elsewhere. When Moses came down from the mountain and after dealing with the golden calf, Moses is concerned if God will continue to be with him, and God reassures him. Exodus 33, 12 through 14. Moses says to the Lord, you've been telling me, lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people. The Lord replied, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. But Paul clinches it for me. This is what he says. 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 4. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. So basically, this is probably a Christophany. So getting back to the scriptures. Exodus 23:23. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods, or you worship them, or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Circle all the people listed above. Okay. We've got the Amorites. I'm going to have some more Amorites right here. And then we have Hittites. We have Hittites. Any more Hittites? Yep, we have more Hittites. Hittites here. We have Perizzites. Perizzites. Oh, there they are. Perizzites. We have Canaanites. Let's see, the Hivites. Got Hivites up here. Any more Hivites? Yes, we have more Hivites. Hivites right here. And I notice that there's more Canaanites, so let's do those. Canaanites. Okay, then we have the Jebusites. Aha. Jebusites is where Jerusalem will be. Okay, so who are we missing? We have we don't have the Philistines and the Moabites listed. Interesting. And the Gergesenes. Philistines, Gergesenes, and Moabites listed. And we don't have any reason why they're not listed. What is God, through the angel, going to do? And he's going to bring us, the angel is going to bring them to that land. And that angel will wipe them out. Notice God says I, not the angel, perhaps another confirmation that the angel is a Christophany. What are three things the Israelites were not to do? Do not bow down before their gods, do not worship them, or do not follow their practices. What are two things the Israelites were to do? You're to demolish their idol places and break their sacred stones to pieces. Exodus 23:25. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I'll give you a full lifespan. In verse 25 above, if the Israelites worship the Lord and no other, they will have several things. What are they? See. If they and no other, they will have several things. What it and you will have food and water. There will be no sickness. No one will miscarry, and no one will be barren. And I'll give you a full lifespan. Leviticus below details it more. Leviticus 26:3 through 6. If you follow my decrees and are careful to obey my commands, I'll send you rain in its season, and the ground will yield its crops and the trees their fruit. Your threshing will continue until grape harvest, and the grape harvest will continue until planting, and you'll eat all the food you want and live in safety in your land. I'll grant peace in the land, and you will lie down, and no one will make you afraid. I'll remove wild beasts from the land, and the sword will not pass through your country. What about the crops? So if you do what he has told you to do, the crops will yield their fruit and you'll have quite a nice, you'll eat all the food you want and live in safety. Yes. If people follow God's decrees and commandments, will there be any fighting or war? No, there won't be. What happens to the wild beasts if the people follow the commandments? God will remove the wild beasts from the land. According to Deuteronomy below, what happens if they do not worship God only? Deuteronomy 28:15 through 18. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I'm giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. You'll be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, and the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. So everything will be cursed, and they won't be able to get much crops. Exodus 23:27. I will send terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I'll make all your enemies turn their backs and run, and I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. According to verse 27, what will God or his angel do ahead of the Israelite travel into the promised land? He will send terror and confusion ahead of them. We have an example of this in Joshua 2 below, as they were about to attack the city of Jericho. This is what Rahab, a prostitute who later becomes a Jew and has the honor of being in Jesus' family line, says. I know the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you have fallen us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. In verse 28, what does God say he will send ahead of the Israelites? Hornets. An example of hornets being sent ahead is shown in Joshua 24 below. Above are listed only a few of the nations. What other nations are driven out? Joshua 24:11 through 12. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you, as did also the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites. But I gave them into your hands. I sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out before you. We have Girgashites definitely listed here, and Hivites, maybe? I don't. I know that's Girgashites. So the difference between the top and the bottom, of course, you've got Girgashites, Jebusites. There you go. Okay. Exodus 23:29. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you've increased enough to take possession of the land. Was God going to drive out all the nations from the promised land in a single year? No. There are really two reasons that God does not clear all the land in the first year. The first one shows in verse 29 above. What is this reason? The wild animals would become too numerous. Will wild animals re-inhabit a place that had been vacated by humans? Yes, this is what's happened in Chernobyl. Researchers have found the land surrounding the plant, which has been largely off limits to humans for 3 decades, have become a haven for wildlife, with lynx, bison, deer, and other animals roaming through the thick forest. This so-called Chernobyl exclusion zone, which covers 2,800 square kilometers of northern Ukraine, now represent the third largest nature reserve in mainland Europe and has become an iconic, if accidental, experiment in rewilding. And that's from www.nf.org. But there's another reason. Read Judges below. What is this reason? Another reason why they won't drive them out all the way. Judges 2:22-23. I will use them, the other nations, to test Israel and see whether they'll keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did. The Lord allowed these nations to remain, but he did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. So he's going to drive them out little by little, but also it's also a test on the Israelites to see if they continue to believe in God. Exodus 23:31. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I'll give into your hands the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out before you. So if you look at this map, Israel has never had that land. Okay, this is from the Nile to the Euphrates. This is yet to happen, but then Israel failed to live up to its promise not to worship other gods. The description of land doesn't actually follow clockwise or counterclockwise. Let's see if we can understand the boundaries better. Okay, the Red Sea then is a body of water between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, not the Nile that is highlighted, but put a line through it to the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. In present day, the Red Sea is below Saudi Arabia. The line for Euphrates River is correct. What two countries does it go through? Iraq and Syria. The desert is the desert. There's no identifying marks. Why do you think the map makers drew a line through the desert there to connect the two lines? Highlight Israel's actual borders. No one knows if and when Israel will control all this. It may be, since they did not follow God, that this will never be. So if you see Israel's borders, it's just right down here, the small little area here. Exodus 23:32. Do not make a covenant with them, that is, those other people in the land, or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare for you. So we come to the crosswords. An angel will lead them. Okay. God will send the hornet ahead of them to drive out the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites. 4. God's name is in the angel. Number 8, God was going to throw into confusion every nation they encounter. 9, if they worship the Lord, then none will miscarry or be barren in the land. 10, if the Israelites were not to worship the gods of the people living in the promised land. 11, God will not drive the nations out of the promised land in a single year. 2 down, their borders will be from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, from the desert to the Euphrates River. 3, if they worship the Lord, then there would be a blessing on their food and water. The Israelites were to break the sacred stones of the people in the promised land. The angel is going to guard the Israelites as they travel. And 7, the angel will not forgive their rebellion. So that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it.